Hey y'all, welcome to the Q Spot Podcast with host Quavila Jones. Be prepared to laugh, cry, and take notes as we dive into each discussion. Stay tuned with special guest Teque'lia Lewis discussing finding your voice, speaking your truth. Hey y'all, this is Quavila Jones, host of the Q Spot Podcast, and welcome to another episode with my very special guest, Ms. Teque'lia Lewis. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Ms. Teque'lia is the host of the Blackout TV show on Afro Vibes Radio. And so we'll make sure to get you all that information before the interview is over. But today's topic is centered around finding your voice, no longer being silent, and especially as a Black woman, why that's so important, not just in this day and age, but why it's important, period. So I can't wait to dive more into Ms. Tequila's story and for her to tell you, how does she find her voice and why she is no longer silent and how she is trying to make a difference in her own community. In the pre-interview, we talked about some events that happened in your life, but let's kind of go back and before you found your voice and talk about what was life like for you then.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, to start off, how I first, I guess, came here to this lovely world, my two amazing parents, Angela and Patrick, of course.
Okay.
They came together, created me, but it wasn't always under the best circumstances. So, as most young Black kids grow up, a lot of times we grew up in that single parent home with mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a mom that was very hardworking, always taught me about independence, not to have to need anything, but have to want it because I'm so focused on what I'm trying to achieve. But with that, I was very reserved as a child, real quiet, was going through a lot, didn't know how to use my voice, honestly. And sometimes was kind of worried about what other people would think, because I didn't feel like everybody else. I felt like I thought like everybody else. So I didn't want to turn anybody off. So I stayed to myself for a really long time. But as I got older, like you said, some things transpired throughout my life. And the first area that really made me find my voice was understanding my Blackness. When I came to terms of who I was as a Black woman and what that meant, especially in a country where we've had to create a culture, we didn't come over here with it because it was taken away from us. I'm in the process of learning all these years of what it was. And once I figured out the beauty in being Black, it made me super confident in myself, wanting to be able to just speak my truth in everything that I had experienced and what I see going on in the world.
Wow, that is a very powerful statement. I used to say that I struggle with my identity. A lot of my identity when it comes to being a Black woman, being Black first, and just who I am in this space and time. And I worked in industries where I was either the only or one of the very few Blacks, and so it's this balance, this juggling act of you don't want to be too much, but then you don't want to shrink yourself either too much. Like you don't know. And so I feel you on that.
Yeah, especially like growing up in spaces that were predominantly white. So I lived in the white neighborhoods and went to the all white schools. So I always felt like I was in the middle of trying to figure it out because you want to fit in, right? Because you are that only Black person, but then you can't be with the Black people because then it's like, oh, you're being too Black. So I struggle with trying to understand that, people teasing me about being proper, my hair was too curly or whatever it was. So I just couldn't figure out where I belonged as a Black woman. And with time and with education and knowledge and figuring out these things, it really helped me understand, how creative and beautiful and innovative Black people are. We aren't monolithic. We aren't this one thing. We bear all things. So that really brought me to a new enlightenment.
That's wonderful. And so now you're here, working with Afro Vibes. And for those of you, if you haven't heard of them, look, go instantly to Instagram, Facebook, wherever, and find them. Like the music, the culture, the topics, the everything. It's all about us for us. And so everyone will find something that resonates with you, that you can vibe to, so to speak. So
If
please
you
go
love
check it
Caribbean music, Afrobeat music, if you're starting to get into that, this is something you'll want to come over and really listen to, because this is traditional beats. This is traditional music from other countries
out.
across the African diaspora, and now they're actually coming over to America and they're intertwining hip hop and R&B. So it kind of gives you a sense of, where we really come from when you start to hear that type of music. And the greatest thing about Afro Vibes is that they embrace all Black people across the diaspora. So they give you a place where you feel at home.
Wow, that's wonderful. Um, wow. When I watch Nollywood movies, I love Nigerian movies. And some people they can't get into them. That's their thing. But every time I watch a movie, there's always some new music I'm introduced to. I'm always shazamming something, and so then I create a whole playlist. And what that does, it does help me feel more connected. And I don't know, that's the best way I can explain it. It helps me feel more connected. All right, so now, here you are again working with this wonderful company, and you're able to use your voice, but again, going back, what was the moment for you where you said, okay, I am ripping off the whatever, and I'm speaking out, I'm speaking up, and whoever be damned.
Yeah, of course. So, how it all started was I had graduated from Prairie View A&M University.
Okay.
And of course, I was in a lot of different activities, one of them being the Marching Storm Band.
Oh.
And I was really close with a young lady, pretty much like family. And after we graduated, she would kind of contact me still after college and always inspire me and encourage me, because she was like on her journey and her way at first of
Okay.
Black culture and knowledge. And she was putting all these videos out. And so I was still trying to figure it out, coming from that, you grow up Christian, right? So
Mhm.
you're afraid to open your mind to other things, because we've been taught, like, you don't question the word of God. That's just what it is. But at this time, this is when, Trayvon Martin is getting killed. More people are starting to be lynched. Barack Obama's in office. So there's a lot of police brutality going on, right? And I'm
Mhm.
just trying to understand this world that I'm in. But I had never really been hit personally by it. So one day I was at work, got this story, seeing people up and down on my Facebook talking about the young lady I went to school with. And I'm like, no, this can't be true.
Mhm.
Well, come to find out, my friend, her name happens to be Sandra Bland. And as everybody knows across the nation, she had got pulled over at a traffic stop, basically was yanked out the car. Within a couple of hours, she was dead in police custody, and they said it was by suicide. Well, for the
Mhm.
people that really know Sandra, we know the type of person she is. We know what she does and she doesn't deal with. So immediately I knew what was up, and I was like, yeah, she's this strong Black vocal woman. She's always been like that in college.
Mhm.
Like, she always spoke her mind, always said what she had to say, man,
Wow.
whatever, it didn't matter. So I know when that situation happened, I immediately got concerned, because I knew this had happened to somebody I personally knew. And I took it hard. I remember I was breaking down, crying at work, because everything that I had seen on television, it was already attacking my mental, right? Because every day you're cutting on the news and you're seeing a
Mhm.
different Black man get slain. It was already mentally draining. But once I lost a classmate, it was like, wow, so not only can this happen to me, it can happen to me as a woman, as a Black woman, and it can happen to me on my way to my alma mater. And that touched me in a way that I don't think I had ever really even thought about. I'm not gonna say didn't think about racism or anything like that, but I hadn't thought about it on the level until that happened. So after that transpired or whatever, of course, a lot of people were going out and they were protesting. They started the hashtag Say Her Name.
Mhm.
I just knew I needed to do something. I couldn't just be living, day to day, check to check with a regular job. I had went to school for journalism, and I was like, this
Okay.
is my chance to make something of myself and speak up about what's going on and be an activist in my community in Houston. So there was a pageant that took place. It was brand new. It was called the Black and Natural Pageant. And it basically talked about embracing Black beauty, natural Black beauty, focusing on education, focusing on enlightenment. And so during that time, I started watching Hidden Colors and
Oh.
following Dr. Umar and, all those people, right? So
Mhm.
at this point, I've crossed the Christianity threshold and I'm learning stuff about African spirituality, everything. I'm enlightening myself because this has happened. And I felt like that became a domino effect for everything that I thought was real was a lie.
Wow. You
It
know,
took me from that to something else. It's like I just hopped from losing a friend to questioning who I was as a Black woman in America, questioning where I came from, questioning my roots, questioning why is something like police brutality going on because of the color of my skin. It made me think about every aspect of being Black and how did I even get here?
wow.
So it was a ricochet of effects that happened. But I don't want this to go on. Let me know if I'm talking too much.
No, no, no. This is your time. We are. Okay. And so, there are so many people out there that don't know where to get started. Like again with me, um, I'll say 5 years ago, I wasn't doing anything. I was just coming out of a bad relationship, now divorced. And so it was just, I was, I don't know. And then this opportunity for me to volunteer with a local radio station came up, and I was submerged into all things culture, all things about us. And so I'm like, where have I been all this time? Why haven't I been doing this type of work before? So I can resonate with you, you know, um, when you said, okay, I can no longer sit back. I can no longer be quiet. I got to do something. There's this fire that burns within, like, okay, I have to do something. And so, like, now I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Um, so we'll get deeper into some other things. But so you lost your dear friend, who we now, like, everyone knows her name, and I hope that everyone never stops saying her name, and they don't stop the fight for civil injustice against people of color, Black people more specifically. Um, I really hope that we as a nation rise up against inequality. We have to do something. We can no longer keep going in the direction that we're going in. We just simply can't.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what led me on my journey. I think I was talking about the pageant. So when I got
Mhm.
in, it really forced me to dive more into my culture. And so I started going to different areas like Third Ward, which, if you're from Houston, Third Ward was one of the first places that Black slaves came and purchased land that they owned, and they built an entire community
Ooh,
here in Houston. So it's a historical landmark here. So I ended up going out there. I started doing a lot of public speaking to the young Black girls in my community, sharing my story. And
okay.
I started getting, acquainted with different activists in the community, one being the Black Panthers in Houston. And so I went to a community event and I started hearing them talk about different things. Then I decided to go to the Shrine of the Black Madonna, started going to a lot of seminars, like Dr. Umar Johnson would come out and speak. And it was just really, like I said, an enlightening process, because it opened my mind to myself, just
Okay.
loving my Blackness and not having to worry about it. Because like you said, when you grow up in an environment with a lot of Caucasian people or European people, you find yourself trying to fit into whatever that is, whether it's your look, whether it's the way that you're speaking, how you carry yourself, you're this Black token. And
Yeah.
I had to get out of that. And I was stuck in that for such a long time that once I figured out my identity, the opportunity for the radio station came up while I had the crown. And I was like, you know what? Journalism is my thing. I'm doing this website, trying to put out all this information, because I started a website at the time just about Black knowledge. And I was like, how can I take this on a bigger platform where I can reach more people?
Okay.
And so I went and I auditioned for Afro Vibes Radio, and I ended up getting it. Now, when I started, it was a little different. I started with 2 women, but of course, as we chipped away at things, it ended up just being my show. And I started connecting with like crazy people in the Black community, from entertainers to activists to politicians. And before I knew it, I was highlighting Black excellence and the knowledge was coming to me. And it
That's
was like every
beautiful.
week, here I am, I'm pulling somebody that y'all never even heard of, or talking to nonprofit organizations that you wouldn't even know existed, and resources that are out there for us, because nobody on mainstream media cares about the Black experience or really cares about Black resources for Black people. And so people really caught on to it. And before I knew it, I was sharing our narrative the way we would tell the story, not how CNN is going to tell it or anybody
Mhm.
else. I went behind the scenes
Mhm.
and really talked to the people and got to understand our side, how we got to where we are. And it's a sad story, but it'll really wake a lot of people up if you understood the process of how everything happened with America, because we were not meant to be here. We were
Yep.
just meant to build this country, and we have survived literally generations.
Look,
And it's something to be proud of.
yes, I don't think the early colonizers really knew what they were getting into when they brought us over here, our ancestors rather over here. Um, it's like you can try to suppress people, you can try to hold them down, but when there's a will and a fight and a drive and determination to win within, you can't kill that. Because I'm willing to believe that our ancestors, even those that are far removed from the ones that first came from Africa, I'm willing to believe there was still something in their DNA that, you know, kept them going, that hope that there's something, there's a fire. I'm just going to call it a fire, a spark that was still going, that kept them going. And so here we are, another generation of young Black people. I'm gonna say we're young. We're young. You're younger than I am, but a younger generation of Black people that are still carrying the torch, and we're still trying to do the work because we have even younger generations looking up to us and saying, okay, where are the leaders? What are they doing? We have to be those positive influences and those lights in our community, in our spaces. And our community reaches beyond our own little zip code and, you know, county line, city line. Our community is everywhere.
Absolutely. And that's, one of the things that I had to learn about myself, because when you're Black in America, you're trying to figure out, what does that mean? Because if you go anywhere else around the world, Black people have some type of culture that they can identify with. You can go to Jamaica, they might be Rastafarians, but even they know that they come from Nigeria. They
Mm-hmm.
all can connect their roots somewhere, but we're really the only people on this earth that we really can't even trace back, where we come from without some sort of a DNA test.
Yeah.
So when we talk about Black people being so creative and so innovative, they still say, oh, the first Black person to do this and the first Black person to do that. But the reality is Black people been amazing. Black people been innovators. And most of the creations that are out here were created by Black slaves, by Black people who came here.
Yeah.
Well, let's not say came here, that were brought here. And they use those people's talents to create the first wheel, to create the air conditioning, to create the first street light. Black people made this. There is no first. We're the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And when you start to really learn about your history, you'll understand that. But unfortunately, we're still being taught like, oh, we're just now getting into creativity. No, we're the beginning of it all.
We've been doing this.
Yeah.
And I watched a video. I watched quite a few YouTube clips. And so this one show that I watched, this guy likes to pull clips from Plies. Now, everybody knows Plies is a rapper. And so he does his thing. He's an entertainer. That's his job. But underneath that, he is very intelligent and very aware of a lot of things. So I would advise people to give Plies a chance. If you can look past his exterior, look past that and listen to his words. And so his message was basically about how privilege, and he didn't even use the word white privilege, he just said privilege, how privilege has been so accepted and it has been the norm in this country. He was like, we need to stop. No, he was talking about privilege and opportunities. And he said he spent the message around to basically Black people, he's tired of hearing that black people are given opportunity. The first black this, the first black that. When it's been people with privilege that have always been doing, always had the opportunity. They've always done it, and you don't hear the word opportunity thrown at them. But for us, it's like we were given opportunity. Like, so we need to change the narrative of how we talk and think about things when it comes to Black people. Like, ugh, that's a whole other.
Absolutely, because I think that's well, for example, like with COVID, I think it's been kind of a blessing and a curse for a lot of people, especially Black people, because, we've always been basically taught to grow up and go work a 9 to 5 and work for somebody else. We really don't come from that ownership bloodline like a lot of white people are. They can inherit things.
Yeah.
We're just now learning about the stock market and learning how to trade, or we're learning about, buying homes with credit, building our credit, things that we didn't even know about, wealth, because we don't come from generational wealth. So we're learning the term ownership. And then since COVID, I've seen so many Black people that own companies and products starting to come out and use their creativity and focus on their passions. And that really comes to show you that it's always been there. It's just like they say, the opportunity is not afforded to us. And one thing I hate about the narrative is when people say, oh, well, you're Black, you grew up educated, you come from money, you're not like the other Black people. No, I have to go through the same struggle, even though I might not be in the hood. When I go into the office, I get questioned for everything that I know and I do, because you don't know why I know it. Or I must have learned it from one of you or somebody else. I couldn't possibly have the knowledge to gain on my own. And that's a challenge we fight with as Black people. They just really, I don't know what they think about us, but obviously it's not true. So we have it there.
I faced that. Like, how do you know that information kind of vibe? In one of my classes, I wrote a paper, and the teacher was asking me to cite, where did you get this information from? Basically, well, I mean, some of it, of course, was built on knowledge from a book, but the overall way that I put my paper together, that was mine. That was my voice. And it's like, she just questioned, like, you wrote this, like, really, you're questioning my intelligence right now? Like, I don't have the capability to combine words and sentences in an intelligent manner that makes sense. Like, I felt very offended that this professor felt like I couldn't have written that. Like,
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think, and as educated Black women, we always come across that. We're definitely going to be challenged because we're educated and because we carry ourselves, as they would say, better or whatever. And it's not that. It's just, this is who we are. There's not one way to be Black. For whatever reason, they think that. And I can relate, because I remember being in high school and my mom was one of the type of people, she used to make me like learn different words out the dictionary just because she was like, in the white world, they're going to use these terminologies to confuse you and talk around you, and you don't really know what's going on. So you need to expand your vocabulary. So I had a teacher, he was talking about something, and I was like, yeah, you're trying to confabulate with us on a different level. And he basically was like, confabulate, that ain't a word. Like, he was trying to embarrass me in front of my whole class. He was like, spell confabulate. So I spell it out. Then he says, go find it in the dictionary. I go find it in the dictionary, show him the definition in front of my class. And they're like, how you the teacher? And you don't even know a word we never heard of, but yet she's 16 and she does. But he questioned me till I proved myself. And we have a problem with that in America. We always got to prove ourselves, no matter if we right or we wrong, because we just couldn't possibly be that intelligent.
Yeah, look. Okay, look, we can definitely talk about that on and on and on, but I definitely want to get into some more wonderful things that you have done. You talked earlier about your entrance into the Miss Black and Natural pageant in Houston, which helped to jumpstart, you to where you are today. But you're also part of another pageant, Miss Black Houston. So tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so I went out for the Miss Black Houston pageant. They basically had kind of seen me around from the previous pageant that I won. So they asked me, would I be interested in coming out and competing? Now, at first, I was like, I was kind of done with the pageant world for a minute, because It was just a lot going on. But I went out for it because that was a dream of mine to always, run for Miss Black Houston. I mean,
Okay.
we're talking about Black culture, Black legacy. I mean, who
Right.
doesn't know a Miss Black Houston, right?
Okay.
So I went out for it. Obviously, didn't win the main title, but ended up winning Miss Black Harris County, which is the county of Houston.
Okay.
So it ended up being a blessing. At the end of the day, I ended up building a strong relationship with them, and they allowed me to use my platform with the radio station and media on sharing Black excellence in the community. And so that's basically been my platform, is just making sure I expose all the excellence, all the talent, the ownership, the entrepreneurship that we typically don't hear about. And it's got me into opportunities in rooms with people that I normally would not have been in by
Mm.
doing this beauty pageant, by being the face of Black beauty for my city, and not just being any regular, Black beauty, but I have natural hair. I typically don't always wear makeup. I love to read. I do all the opposite things of what people probably would think women, period, would do, right? I enjoy those type of things. And so I got lucky enough that I started going places where the mayor was, and I built a relationship, and those things
Yeah.
interconnected with being in the pageant and doing the radio, because now I can go anywhere. People know me, right? Because of the pageant and the networks that I built in the Black community who support the Miss Black Houston pageant, they started coming over to the radio station. So then I was able to interview them. And so now when I look at myself, it's like not just the activist, but I see the face of being that awkward Black girl
Oh.
that's comfortable with being herself and transparent. And I can inspire somebody else to be the same way, because they put you on this pedestal. But I always tell people, please don't put me on a pedestal.
Mhm.
Listen to my story. Let me be transparent with you so you can see how normal I am. So
Mhm.
you can understand you're able to get to these levels and these peaks as well. It doesn't matter where you come from, because I can tell you my story all day and it ain't going to be the best story in the world, but I overcame in spite of. And that's been my biggest thing. I want people to understand it's okay to not know who you are for a moment, but figure it out along the way. Make sure you're paying attention to your experiences and the things that's going around you in the world. This is your life story, and it tells you more about yourself than anything. So, prime example, don't be upset about Trump being in office. He made Black people go out here and work. He made Black people realize what it meant to have your own.
Yes,
Everything
ma'am.
serves purpose.
Yes, ma'am. We need to look at every moment, just like you said, look at every moment as an opportunity to step up, speak out, do better, be better, inspire, encourage, and educate anyone that you encounter. And especially this younger generation. I can't say that enough. I have such a heart and passion for young people because I know what life was like for me as a teenager. I know what I didn't get exposed to. And so I want to be that for other young people. Any, especially young ladies, if I can help them not make the same mistakes I made. I was a young parent. I didn't finish my college degree on time. I did some other things in life that I can't take back, but I can hopefully encourage someone else to do different and not follow down that same track. You know, I look at a lot of the influence that's on TV, social media, and it's like I hate to say we're going backwards in some ways as a culture. We're sidetracking a little bit. I do know we don't live in the 1960s. This is not the civil rights movement, but there is always some type of civil rights movement going on. It's just a matter of how, I guess, pronounced it is, if that's the right term to use. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. One thing I know about this current generation, it's a little flip floppy, because you have some that are young and they're very open minded, they're very woke, as they would say. And then you have the other half. I really think they're dealing with depression and anxiety, and they lost. And so they've fallen into these drugs and the suicide, which has been like a constant issue I've noticed lately with, oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, yes.
It's like popular to do drugs and to want to kill yourself or whatever, but it's not because it's
Mhm.
popular. It's because these kids aren't being guided and they don't know who they are as individuals. And they live in a world that is so judgmental, which is why I was mentioning earlier about being so quiet because you don't want people to judge you. And these kids today do not take the type of criticism that you had to take back then. You know, they give up so quickly. But then they're on social media, they're getting attacked 24/7. And it wasn't like that, you know, a couple, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Mhm.
Social media wasn't as powerful as it is. So it can make or break you, and it's breaking people, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just, I don't know, we all have our challenges, and it can go either way. It's just you have to make sure that you have the right things in front of these kids. But it ain't even about what's on television, it's about what's in the home. That's where
Oh,
it's supposed to start first anyway.
oh,
Because if you're taking care of your responsibilities in the home and you're being the figure and the role model for your kid like you're supposed to be, then you ain't got to worry about Cardi B raising your child or growing up to be whatever it is that you concern and you scared about.
yeah.
And with
Oh,
that being said, with the women like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, I know people like to criticize them for being sexually free, but then women have stories too, and they have to accomplish to overcome to where they're at. They just did it in their own way.
I was thinking about that earlier. I listened to an episode of someone else's podcast, and they were talking about how certain music is not being pushed as much as other music. When you're all about positivity and empowerment, your music is kind of down here. You know, it's not hitting mainstream as hard as some of the other things. But like you said, these women found a space that they can capitalize on. And I mean capitalize on. And that's what they're doing. And who are we to knock them? Just because it may not totally be my vibe, that doesn't mean that I have the right to knock them.
Yeah.
That's a job. Entertainment for them is a job. When they go home, take off the makeup and the wigs and everything, they are not they are not still that person they are on stage or on camera. They are totally different. Well, some of them are totally different people. So they just found what works for them. And some people are using those platforms to build so that they can eventually get out of it. Some of them want to get out of it so they can get out and then move on and encourage and uplift their communities. We have no right to judge anyone else's path, journey, story. Like, I think if we as Black people stop doing that
Mhm.
and start working together more, we will realize there's strength in numbers. I say this all the time. We can get more done together than separate.
Yeah.
Um, which is why I push Kwanzaa, the principles of Kwanzaa. I know Christmas comes first, but since I have been engaged in more Kwanzaa activities and education, I'm like, there's no turning back for me. I
Yeah.
love it.
No, that's good. I mean, everybody has their own traditions, and that's why it's important as Black people to figure out where your roots are from so you can identify with that culture and what they celebrate so you can learn more about yourself. Don't just go based off of what grandmama taught you because this was the way. Well, grandmama is still following the slave mentality. No disrespect to anybody, but they are. That's what they were raised up in. They are those couple of ancestors right after slavery. So they're in a different mind space. They didn't have the freedom and the equality that we have today to go out and be a Cardi B. You couldn't do that, say, 50 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And, I remember, you just made me remember, Cardi B said something to the effect of, a girl like me in the hood can't relate to Michelle Obama. And
Okay.
that's the reality of it. Everybody not gonna relate to you. Everybody don't come from where you come from. So if it gotta be a stripper or a rapper or somebody that might have, delved in drugs or whatever the case may be, whatever their story is, that person is meant to serve somebody and help somebody else that identifies with what they went through. You cannot save everybody. Everybody does not identify with your story.
Yes, ma'am.
If I come from the hood and you come from the suburbs and you trying to tell me the best way to live my life when I ain't never even seen it, let alone experienced that, it's gonna go past my head. But Cardi B rapping about it, and then I also go to her Instagram and she talking about politics with Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, stuff that I'm not gonna watch on CNN, but she tapping into my mind.
Yes.
I'm gonna be like, yeah, maybe voting is important. She doing things her way to inspire people that are like her, and that is okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We need to get back to that mind. Well, we need to all gravitate towards that mindset and stop turning our nose up at people. And I'm going to point the finger at myself. At one point in my life, I was guilty. I was raised in a rural area, and it's like when I became exposed to city life, not that where I live is like a huge metropolitan area, but it's definitely city compared to where I came from. I had to check my bias. I had to check myself. It's okay, Quabila, you cannot judge other people's life and what they're doing based on my experiences. And so I think if we would learn to celebrate our differences more, we would get along better and we could do more together. We could get more accomplished. There's no reason that there hasn't been more reform in police engagement, city government, institutional oppression. There's no reason there hasn't been more reform. And people can argue till the day is done that there are no systems in place that are oppressive. Just stop. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they are.
Oh, absolutely. I understand why so many people are standing behind these reforms for defunding the police, because if you know the history of how the police and the sheriff's department even came about, they were originally slave catchers that caught Black slaves, right? So a lot of these individuals who are in these positions of higher power, they also are the ones wearing they heads covered up at the Ku Klux Klan rally. So if you're not putting the right people in a position to go out and police our communities, then you're going to have more people coming up dead than you're going to have people surviving. Because let's be real, like you was mentioning earlier, this country had no plans on us being here for the long term. So with the music industry, like you said about the talent that's coming out, they're going to push the talent that's talentless because they want to control the youth's mind and the masses and get them to do drugs, get them to be suicidal and think that that type of stuff is cool with the rappers passing away. Because if they were to put somebody out that had substance, that had worth, that talked about you being a king and a queen and where you come from and all this amazing stuff, then you would start to rise up in power in numbers and realize how beneficial you are to not just the nation, but this world and the power you hold. But that would be too good to be true, because if you realize the power you hold, then that means you're going to start questioning the person whose power is in that position, and you're going to want to go out for that position so you can start representing your community. You're going to want to be a police officer, or you're going to want to be a lawyer, and they don't want to see people of color in those spaces.
Girl, come on with the knowledge. Come on with it now, girl. That's what I'm talking about. Now that you found your voice, you're speaking up, you're no longer silent. And so we're going to pivot to highlight your show, The Blackout TV. Is it The Blackout or Blackout TV?
It's the Blackout Show on Apple TV. Yeah.
Okay, so look, we need to let people know how. I'm going to put the link on the screen so they can find it on Afro. Look, first go to Afro Vibes and then, just get lost in that black hole of wonderfulness. But also while you're there, check out the Blackout Show. So there it is right there. AfroVibesRadio.com/the Blackout. Please, please, please go show your love to Miss Teque'lia. Not tequila, don't call her tequila.
It's okay if you do. Yes, please come check it out. And as I mentioned earlier, basically the Blackout, we shine a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture in the community. And I try to make sure it's not just nationwide, but internationally, because we are an international radio station. So in Houston, there's a big Nigerian community here. And a lot of African students, you know, they come from overseas to here. So they're taking the radio station back with them. So we've been lucky enough, we have over 3 million viewers, and now we've expanded onto television. So we have the Afro Vibes channel, which is now streaming on Roku TV. And we play amazing Afro beats, music videos, Caribbean music videos. And the Blackout is now showing on television. So I went from radio to now I'm on the TV, and it comes every Tuesday at 1:30. And in extension to that, I am now the news anchor for Afro Vibes TV, which comes on Mondays at 12. And I basically covered nothing but Black culture, Black news, everything that have to deal with us. If you want to know about what's going on here, there, you can go to CNN. But if you want to know something a little different about us in news, you can definitely come over to the News Hour on Afro Vibes Television.
Look, girl, okay. If my little short legs could get up and do, you know. Look, this is how, like, I love celebrating my Queen sisters. I love celebrating us. I love to hear about all things us. So please, I encourage everybody, go check out Afrobeats and then follow all the links to that. And then
it's Black owned. A Nigerian started this station with his own money. He works in the oil and gas industry, and it's been going on for about 4 or 5 years now, and it's grown so much. Like, we don't have to follow any type of FCC rules or anything like that. So if you come over and you listen to the shows, you're going to get 100% Black content produced, directed, scripted, written, recorded, whatever. Nothing but an entire Black team across different diasporas. We have people from Jamaica. We got people from Ghana, Nigeria, right here in Houston, New York. We got a little bit of everything. So you can really learn a lot about yourself.
You know, and I think I met someone. Our radio station is an affiliate of the Cher Underwood show. Well, yeah, that's how it works. And so
Amazing 102.5, yeah.
And so we recently had an affiliates call last Saturday, and I know I saw a representative from Afrovibe, and it clicked like, okay, but I didn't get to speak to them directly to get to know who they were. So
yeah, we have such an amazing relationship. I know the show you're talking about with Amazing 102.5, and they've been so nice enough that we've been able to cross promote, which is something that I want more Black people to do when it comes to entrepreneurship, because you're not going to get those advertising spaces like you want to. But if you collaborate with other Black people in your industry, it'll really help your exposure. It don't always got to be competition. We share entertainers and work and, you know, whatever. We try to be at the same events. And so that really makes it even better.
And that's why I was happy that you accepted my invitation to be a guest on my podcast, because I want more people to know about what you're doing. I want people to be inspired to find their voice, no longer be silent, raise their voice and speak their truth, not just their individual truth, but their truth of their community, of the Black community. It's time out to be silent. It's time out. Like, we should no longer let anything silence us. Now, I do know there are consequences to speaking out. We've seen that tragically happen, but find a way to use your voice, you know, and speak your truth.
One thing I want to share with everybody, my uncle always told me, if you're going to be a part of the revolution, you can't be afraid to die. It go with the journey. You know what I'm saying? Heroes are not afraid to die. So speaking your truth, going out there, making sure you're telling the right story the right way, and being honest as possible, and making sure that you're inspiring your community. You can never steer you wrong. Maybe some people may not agree with it. Maybe some people are going to fight you against it, but the truth is always going to be the truth. Ain't nothing you can do to deviate from that. So you just stand strong in it, because people have lost their lives. You know, look at Martin Luther King, look at Malcolm X, look at Marcus Garvey, and we still talk about them till this day, because we know how important that is to carry that on. And earlier you mentioned about we were talking about school and stuff, and I was going to say one thing about Black people: we have orature in our blood. We're known for telling stories and keeping it going. We're good with remembering things and telling stories. So we don't need a book and knowledge and all that other stuff to prove and cite a point, because we pass down history through our lacking. And that's one of the beautiful things about Black people. Truth, man, we just have nothing but the light.
All right. Thank you. And one more thing I would love for you to highlight is Black Queen Media.
Yeah. So yeah, Black Queen Media, that's my baby.
Okay.
Like I said, when I first did the Black and Natural pageant, I was trying to figure out what way I was going to go in the communications field. So it started out as a blog, well, not a blog, but a blog website, just talking about Black knowledge. But it eventually grew, and I started doing photography and videography,
Oh,
graphic design. So those are the actual services that I offer. But with me, not that I'm not inclusive, but my main focus is on providing my services to the Black community and making sure that it's economical, because I want us to have quality. We deserve quality. And I know a lot of people like to overprice things. So I like to use my talent and my time to give back to my community with my
okay.
services so that I can help push out more entrepreneurs and Black businesses with what I have to provide. So if you're looking for a photographer or anything like that, you could always check out my work at blackqueenmedia.com.
Okay.
And I don't know if we're going to go into this, but the second half of it is my nonprofit organization, Squeeze Me Healthy.
All
And
right.
it's basically for women of color who are either battling breast cancer or they're in remission. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I tied them both together. I'm going to start collaborating with both Black Queen Media and Squeeze Me Healthy so that I can use my creative insights to start building some beautiful projects for women of color that have been battling cancer.
Wow. So I'm going to put that on the screen as well. So that is Squeeze Me Healthy. So I'm guessing squeeze.
Squeeze Me Healthy. But
All
you know, my mom, she was the one
right.
that told me. She found some type of quirky statistic that said the more that you hug a person, the less likely it is that you can get breast cancer. So it's just like even with a self-examination, make sure you squeeze yourself healthy and you're
Mhm.
making sure you're doing your self breast exam and you're getting your mammograms. It don't matter. People tell you to wait till you're in your 40s, but my mom got cancer at 32 and I'm 31. So you need to start
Wow.
in your 20s as Black women. And that's what I want everybody to know with Squeeze Me Healthy. When you're donating to us, you're helping a Black woman get a mammogram. You're helping a Black woman be able to pay her utilities while she's in the middle of disability. We're just making sure they have those resources, because a lot of times these white-owned nonprofits don't really help women of color. And a lot of times the doctors even don't take us seriously when we go in and we tell them that something's wrong with us. So
Yes.
we're fighting for the Black woman's health.
Wow, that is so amazing. I did a research paper about mat- mater- oh gosh, trying to get the word. I get tongue tied. I'm sorry, but basically maternity mortality. Black women are at higher risk of dying uh, during childbirth or right after childbirth due to those things you mentioned not being taken seriously by the medical community. And one of the main factors that led to the mortality rates is the systematic racism within the healthcare. That was surprising to me when I found it in my research. So, but we could, that's another discussion that
Girl, yeah,
we,
'cause we can talk about this COVID vaccine and why Black people don't want to mess with it. You know, we can talk about the Tuskegee experiment. It's a whole nother another situation.
yes, ma'am.
I
So,
understand with being a Black woman, have gone to the doctor and my body not being cared for like I deserve. And that happens to a lot of Black women.
so look, y'all, I want to encourage you to reach out to Miss Tequila, get these conversations started. Look, listen to our show. I hope that this won't be your last time here having a discussion with me.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for even bringing me on. This is so beautiful. I'm gonna make sure I support,
Thank
I
you.
share, I love what you're doing. Being able to come, from one Black woman in the media to another is very encouraging. I appreciate you letting me come on your show.
Thank you. This has been such a wonderful experience. I am encouraged by you, like, in our off air conversation. You're younger than I am, but I'm still coachable, I'm still teachable, and I'm willing to learn from other people because you have a different life experience than I have.
Yeah,
And so I can grow from what you know. So thank you
I
for
appreciate
sharing
it.
you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, so I just want to encourage everyone. Don't forget to check out this video on the Q Spot Podcast YouTube channel. I will put links. I will put these links that are on the screen in the description box, so you can follow those links and find more information and support Mr. Teque'lia's efforts to raise awareness in the community about these various topics. And so, don't forget, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and even Snapchat. I'm trying to step up my game. Snapchat, but share, like, subscribe, follow, all that jazz. Don't forget to be intentional with your words, your thoughts, and your actions. What do you want to see manifested in your life today and forevermore? And as always, pink sugar kisses, y'all. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the Q Spot podcast. Thank you for watching the Q Spot Podcast video edition. Don't forget to join the Q crew so you don't miss a beat. Follow, like, share, and subscribe to all of my social media platforms and the major podcast platforms. And as always, pink sugar kisses. Mwah.